The fourth thing that we want to talk about in this complete guide to strength training for endurance athletes is the common errors that people encounter when they start including strength training into their training plans. Where can things go wrong? This is where you get to that make or break moment where you decide if strength training is something that's going to be a performance enhancer or a performance detriment. Now, if you avoid a lot of these issues and you get them correct and implement strength training correctly, then you can experience all of those gains that we talked about. So let's get into all those common errors and what you should avoid as you start including strength training into your endurance training race plans.
My name is Taren Gazelle. In my late 20s, I was overweight, unfulfilled, and couldn't even run to the end of the block. Over the following 10 years, I lost 65 pounds racing triathlons, running races, cycling events, and world championships. But eventually, the suffer culture of endurance sports training caught up to me, causing health issues and injuries. Now, my company Motive and I are on a mission to help people live more fulfilling lives by reaching endurance sports goals using healthy methods. We can all kill it on race day without killing our bodies. Let's do it.
Let's get into the most common errors that endurance athletes end up committing when they start including strength training into their endurance training plan. The first one is ignoring body parts. This is where people say, well, should I just work on core? Or I'm a runner, so I don't really want to run on tired legs, so I'm just going to do my core and my upper body and ignore the legs because the legs get enough strength just by doing the running. Well, that's not the case. True, real strength means that your body from head to toe is strong, is stable. And the only way that you can get your entire body strong and stable is by training your entire body. And in my opinion, training your entire body together so that all of your muscle groups from your left ankle on the outside of your foot all the way up to the right shoulder, that entire chain is able to be strong and taut and connected. By just training certain body parts here and there, you're not teaching your body to function well together. I think that it's critical to do movements, do exercise, and do the type of training that teaches your body to be like wrought iron, all tied together and firm, so that when you plant into a pedal or a foot strike or put your hand in the water and set a catch, that you can be firm from the tip of your finger all the way to the tip of your toes. That's true strength. The second common error that people commit when they include strength training into their endurance training is they go at it with the aspect of building muscle. I'm sorry, it's just not gonna happen. Building muscle is entirely meant to be anabolic, building up your body. Performing endurance training is entirely catabolic, is breaking down. When you're asking your body to even do the same thing within the same month, you're not going to really accomplish either. Of course, there are obvious exceptions with the hybrid athlete program where there are lots of people that are really big that are also doing running. But if you look back at most of those people, they were people who were already big and then got smaller. So these people that are showing that you can run and be muscular at the same time, I totally agree. Having been muscular before, it's going to be almost impossible for you to look the way that they look and run if you don't already look that way. It just isn't going to happen. The third error that people make when they include strength training into their endurance training plan is scheduling. What a lot of people do when they incorporate strength training into their training plans is they say, all right, I've got my training plan. Well, I've got this nice rest day here. That's when I'm gonna do my S&C, my strength and conditioning. I'm gonna put it on that rest day. That, I think, is really detrimental to performance. The reason being that strength training takes a lot out of us endurance athletes because it is the thing that we don't focus on the most. It takes a lot for our body to handle it and actually repair itself from that. So that rest day becomes not a rest day and then you're never actually taking rest. What I like to do in our endurance training plans on mymotive.com is we include the strength training on an otherwise intense and key day. Because that day is already intense, yeah, you might go and you say, well, it's gonna be really hard to do this strength day on an intense day. is this really right? It's right because it's already an intense day. It allows the intense days to be intense with the rest days to be rest. The fourth common error, we've talked about this in other sections, is being afraid of bulk. It's related to number 2. It's being afraid that you're gonna get too big and it's going to be detrimental to your endurance performance. As I said before, it's just not gonna happen. Even the most competitive bodybuilders in the world with all of the juicing and steroids in the world maybe put on 2 to 3 pounds of muscle per year. Like the average person in the gym might have a hard time putting on that 2 to 3 pounds with nothing but dedicated strength training year round. If we're combining strength training with endurance training, it's gonna be even harder to build up any sort of muscle, so you really don't have to worry about bulk. In addition to that, if you have more muscle mass, your metabolic rate is going to be higher, so you're going to be less likely to hold fat, so you might gain muscle, lose fat, have an improved body composition, and boom, even though you've gained muscle, you are still faster. And then the fifth most common error that people make when they start including strength training into their endurance plans is just lumping it on top of training. As we talked about in the science section of our complete guide, the benefits come when you first replace some of your endurance training with strength training, not just lumping it on top. The reason for that is we don't want to overload our body with more than it can handle. And if we are currently training 10 hours a week and then we all of a sudden step up to 12 hours a week or 13, that's a 20 to 30% increase right away in strength training, which is very, very hard for your body to handle at the start because it is breaking down your body so much. So we want to include it, but make it supplementary to our training as opposed to adding it to your training. Adding in strength training to your training is not really going to get a whole lot of juice from that squeeze, but replacing some of your training with strength training is going to save you a lot of time, and that's where you're going to get the performance benefits. Motivator, thank you for watching this fourth clip video of the errors associated with including strength training into your endurance training plan. If you want to see the complete guide to strength training for endurance athletes, you can see the full video with all of these concepts talked about in the video linked up here. If you want to see each of the concepts spoken about individually, the playlist is linked over here. And in that complete guide, the full video, we talk about what this pie chart means and what it means in relation to your strength and endurance training plan. And finally, if you aren't already subscribed, motivators, hit the subscribe button below. Later.